Backstretch Banter here on SiriusXM NASCAR Radio. I'm your host, Chris Childers. It is, I think, episode number 10. So we are getting deeper and deeper into the NASCAR season. We're starting to figure out where every team lies, who's a contender, who's not. And if recent history has shown us anything, I think Rous Fenway Keselowski is 1,000% very much in the mix right now. If the season ended today, both teams would be in the playoff, and the number 6 car is just knocking on heaven's door the last couple of weeks in Dallas and in Talladega with the P2 finish, and so close to victory lane on Sunday night. But we have a great show today. We really do. As we head to the Monster Mile, as we head to Dover, Dustin Lineback is going to be with us, who is the Jackman for the number 6 car. So he's been all a part of those great finishes the last couple of weeks. The number 6 car really has improved week after week after week. You got to think Brad's win is coming. You got to think that it's a matter of time. And then Kiley Wren is going to join us from Blue Forge Alliance with BuiltSubmarines.com. And Kiley's background, it's going to blow your mind. NASA engineer and all kinds of stuff. And we'll talk about the great partnership with Built Submarines in just a minute. But Dustin Lineback is with us. He's the Jackman, like I said, for Brad for the number 6 car, which is the BuiltSubmarines.com number 6 Ford Mustang this week with RFK. Mr. Lineback, hello. How are you, sir?
How you doing, man? Appreciate you guys having me on.
I am good. I was telling you before we got on the air how I'm feeling a little better on Tuesday, because Sunday I texted the boys. I texted Brandon Lee and Thomas, and I said, I can't. This team is killing me. I mean, I literally, I cannot take any more stress after the last couple P2s. And I'm not even out there. I'm not in a fire suit. You are. Great finishes. Clearly the team is running great, but how would you describe the last 2 weekends in your eyes?
It's really, really bittersweet. That's what it is.
Sure.
You know, you get so close to a win, and then you get your hopes up, and then it's just a huge letdown. But you got to look at it on Monday morning as, hey, it's a great points day. We get to race again. But, man, when you're so close, especially at Talladega, it's last year NASCAR calls the caution, the yellow comes out, we win. You know, this year they let it ride. They let it finish. So, to me, I'm thrown for a loop. As soon as I see a 34 spin out, I'm like, oh, we got it. Then I see the 45 go a little bit faster. I see the checkered, no yellow. Maybe a dent in the pit box. Like, what is going on here? Why are we not winning this? Like, what's the deal? And then that's it. Second place on the Dover. And that's all you can say.
Yeah, I felt the same way. Watching the race, and I absolutely thought when Michael went out, I'm like, this is it. He's out of the way, and all of a sudden, boom, there goes the Michael Jordan, the flying Michael Jordan across the finish line first. It was a bummer, but damn, it's close. It's got to be coming. In the post-team meeting, when you guys you got to feel, you said bittersweet, but you got to feel good about where the team's at, no?
Yeah, I mean, we're trending in the right direction, but we really need a win. We've got to win. Like,
I know
we are all starving for a win, and we've been, I wouldn't say robbed, but we've had a few things happen where we've been in the hunt for the wins, and it seems like both of our cars, when we're good, we're really, really good, and that's both of them. And the 17, they got a few that we could have gotten, and then in Bristol and the first year of this car, we're leading almost every lap, and with tire blows. So it's like, man, that's another bummer. So it's just, we've had opportunities. We just haven't closed on them as a team. And, they're coming. Once we win, I believe we're going to start rallying them off.
I agree.
There's no doubt about that. It's just we've got to get that hump and get over it and get the checker flags.
It's going to kick ass when it happens. It's going to be
awesome.
I mean, I'm telling you that it's going to be unbelievable to watch you guys. And I've been so lucky over the last 10 weeks to get to know pretty much everybody in the garage, and what great people that work their butt off every week to get these cars faster. And the progress that's already been made in the last couple of years is just insane. But to see the both cars get into victory lane on a regular basis obviously is the goal. And it seems like it's just right there, like you're knocking on the door. And I agree. Like last year with Chris, the wins just kept kind of piling up once he got the first one. And I wouldn't be shocked if we get that across the board this year. It's been a fascinating season, and you said the word luck a minute ago. You got to be good from your perspective, and you got to be lucky. And you've been around the sport, I think, now for what, close to 15 years. So you've probably seen a little bit of it from every angle, good luck and bad. How much of it, from a Jackman's perspective, how much of NASCAR is actual luck? Just, I mean, I'm thinking of like Daytona this year for the six and in a position to win and just got bad luck. Atlanta the next week, same deal. Just some bad luck. But how much of what you do on a given week is just pure luck?
I don't want to use the word luck. I'd like to use the word, well, it's hard to say, especially with Brad driving our car. Him getting to the front of super speedways, that is not luck. Matt McCall's
He's
building
good.
these fast race cars. That's not luck. Us executing pit stops, that's not lucky. That's what we do. Everyone's good. I think when luck comes to play in racing is when, hey, why don't we stay out 5 extra laps, get the caution like we did in Texas? That's lucky. Sweet. That happened, 2 weeks ago. That's good. And Brad said, hey, if we can get up front, I can run with these guys. Well, let's do what we got to do to get up front and see if we get lucky. That's kind of the strategy of luck. It's obviously in play. If we can go an extra 20 laps on fuel, why wouldn't we try and get lucky? When it comes to pit stops, we've gotten, I would say, pretty lucky a couple times. The first year in Coda, we haven't had a wheel fall off. That's pretty good. I'll take that if that's a little luck, right? Because we've rode a couple that may have been iffy 50-50 calls. But we got lucky in Coda that we saw it and didn't send Brad on the track without a wheel. That's luck. But I would think it plays probably 5-10% of winning races is luck. I would say
You got to be great.
Yeah, you got to be good. And details win races. I've always
win races.
I've been a believer of that.
Sometimes you need a little luck too, like McDowell at the end of the race, or whatever, Daytona. To me, just it's one of those things that you got to be great, and then you need a little love, the racing gods sprinkling a little magic there at the end. And when it comes, it comes. As you said, sometimes it just once you break through that ceiling's busted through, and all of a sudden the NASCAR gods smile down on you. So hopefully that's where it's going right now with the number 6 car and the 17. Dustin Lineback is our guest. It is the Build Submarines Ford Mustang this weekend, the buildsubmarines.com. For those that don't know what that company is, you can build submarines. Like, you can literally be a part of helping our country and helping the Navy and building submarines. I mean, I can't think of a cooler profession if you're an engineer. So check that out. The car's going to look sweet this weekend. I guarantee you the number 6 at the Monster Mile at Dover is going to look really sweet. How did you get into being a Jackman? I always find that job to be amazingly scary. It's scary, and yet it's super important, and you got to be an athlete to have any kind of success at it. You've been doing it for a while, but you're a football guy, which makes perfect sense to me that you would make that kind of transition, and a North Carolinian at that. So I'm sure somebody got in your head. But just your job, in your words, what is your job?
Being a Jackman in the single lug era, I think's the toughest mentally, because you've really got to have a sharp eye, because we don't have 5 lug nuts to look at to make sure these wheels are tight, and for me, dropping the car, sending the driver out there 200 miles an hour, guess what? If that wheel's not tight, that's on me. So that responsibility has greatly increased just in that role. I started off as a gas man. I was a carrier and a gas man during the 6-man era. And then once we went to 5, we realized someone's going to get they're getting axed out of here, because 6 to 5 is -1. So we started learning how to jack and carry. And then the evolution of what we do now, it's gotten so fast. And being a jack man, you've got to be strong, fast, and very sharp mentally, because you've got to make sure the other guys are doing their job too.
Yep.
That's the hardest thing. And thankfully I have really, really good guys around me, and they probably make me look a little bit better than I am. So, having Brad and McCall, everyone gets it on what we need, to pit. But as a Jackman specifically, I got to have certain heights, certain gaps, and make sure everything's good. You got about 5 or 6 checks before you can send that car off, and that's all in 8-9 seconds. So most of the checks are probably a tenth or two. So, you add it up, it's probably 0.6, 0.7. And
it's crazy.
It is. And
it's hard for me to comprehend it because I think so many of us as race fans take it for granted because we see it happen every week. We see these pit stops, and for anybody that's ever seen a pit stop up close, and I've, seen many of them up close, being in a pit box, it's almost like you're watching magic right in front of you. I mean, it really is like, oh my God, how did they do that fast? And to see the practice that goes into it, the athleticism that goes into it, the strength that goes into it to do what you do that quickly, I don't know if the average person can really comprehend it until they, I mean, I don't know how many people are going to be able to try something like that in their lifetime. Maybe at the NASCAR Hall of Fame thing when they, give you something like that. But it's incredible. It really is. I think it's one of the toughest jobs in sport. It really is, to be that mentally sharp, that physically demanding, and literally you have to work your best within seconds. And if you don't, it could ruin everything. So it is incredible, I think, what goes into that job. The one lug, what did it do for you mentally? Did it make you nervous at first? Did it, going from 5 to 1 lug, was it harder? Did you have to train differently? Your eyeballs, what was that process like?
When it first come out, I thought it was going to be easy. I said, this is not,
it's 1 as opposed to 5.
I was like, this is not going to be good for us veteran guys. This is not what we want, because we're so used to the skill of 5 lugs, matching patterns, this and that. And then it's like, hey, you don't even have to have a certain pattern as a carrier putting the tire on. You just throw it on, and the changer is just 1 nut, right? So when we first started doing it, we were running like 11s, 12s, or like, this is way too easy. This is not going to be good. And then probably 6 months later, I transitioned over here to RFK with our new team, and we started seeing 9s and then 8s. And I said, the people who can run 8-second stops, they're the Michael Jordans of the pit road. Like, that's so hard to do. And the guys that can run 9:20 and under, those guys are elite. Like, that is not easy to do. I could probably take 5 guys and run 11:50 and 12-second stops today on like a Dover car, which is a nice car to pit, off the street. As long as they could get the jacks and everything, I could let them run 12s and 13s day one. But cut that in half to run an 8, it would take them 50 years. Maybe. They couldn't do it. It takes everything. You have to be big, fast, strong, mentally sharp. You have to be able to adapt. And the biggest thing was the guys that adapted from 6-man to 5, and then from 5 lugs to 1. The same guys that were good at the 6-man to the 5-man 5 lug are the same guys that are good at this. They're just great at adapting to any situation that's thrown at them. And when we built this team coming over here with Brad, hey, these guys, they were good in 6-man, good in 5-man. They're going to be good in this. And we have been. So that's kind of the structure of how it all happens. And it's been tough. It's really tough because we want to run 8s, but there's certain situations where you don't need it, and then there's certain situations where, hey, we really need to gain spots, depending on the racetrack and where we're running. If we're running up front and we got the fastest car, just put tires on it, let the car and Brad do the work. But if we're in 12th, 13th, 10th, and we need to get him up to the front where he gets clean air, hey, we got to run high 8, low 9. A little more pressure, but, it's doable. And it just takes a certain set of skills and a little bit of risk versus reward too, and as a Jackman, you've got to know how to balance your risk versus reward. That's probably the most important thing, because we are all very trigger happy when it comes to dropping the jack. Like, I would love to just hang and cut. But you got to check the left front. We're all humans. You got to check the left rear. Even on the right side of the car. Luckily, our right front's really fast. I can get back in time to check the right rear, and we're all smooth. But the left side can be even a lot of times. and I want to cut, but it's like, hey, just wait 0.2 and we're safe.
Yeah.
0.2 of a second is the difference in a wheel falling off or you gaining 3 spots and everything being good. So you got to make sure your risk versus reward is balanced.
Which is so hard when you're competing. It really is to be balanced mentally and make sure the risk reward is balanced from a physical perspective as well. I really find all of this to be fascinating. And we talked about the difference in the change in the lug. What about the jack technology? I mean, you've been doing this now for, I think, a decade and a half almost. Is what you use different from when you started? And has that, like, give me an idea of the jack technology in NASCAR.
Well, when I first started, remember I was a gas man. And so I remember, our Jackman, they were using big, thick pit bosses. They probably stood off the ground 3 inches, right? Maybe 2.5, 3 inches. And the jack posts were really high up. The cars sat higher up, and then they were using huge, long steel handles. And they were just double pumping left sides, sometimes right sides. It wasn't even a big deal, until guys started getting faster, hitting lug nuts. So it's like, hey, maybe I want to shorten the handles. And so I watched the guys transition from long handles, like I would say 50-inch handles down.
Really?
Yeah, huge long handles. Yeah. It makes it easier to pump. You wanted a 10-inch jack back in the day.
Yeah.
So you'd use longer handles. And these guys, they would eventually just shorten it down to where it's like 35 inches, and now they're even shorter than that. And we went from steel to aluminum to carbon for lighter weight, stiff. You want, higher strokes and things like that.
Yeah.
And then, when I started jacking, I was at Hendrick for the first time, and we were getting beat on stroke times, and so everyone was looking at strokes. I think Penske at the time had the fastest strokes. And so we were trying to match that. So they were adding all kinds of different springs in the pistons, double pistons, quick drops, carbon handles. And then they went to a low profile plate because the ride heights got so low. I mean, the jack post would be 2 inches off the ground. So we needed an inch or less, plate height just to get the jacks under the cars. And so, transitioning all the way from that to now, everything's basically within a tenth or half a tenth. So guys may have better jacks, thicker or thinner handles, longer handles, shorter handles. And we're timed, around the ups, stop the ups. Everything's timed. So by the 10th, by the 100th. And you can tell what guys are fast at what based off their ability, their athletic ability, how much they weigh, and what jacks they use. And I try and break all that data down, because a lot of people are using Pit Vipers. Hendrick has theirs, Gibbs has theirs, Penske has theirs, and we have ours. And they're all similar, but they're all different in their own way. And you have to learn to adapt to different jacks to be, the best. And for us, these cars, they're not the same every week. So our post may be 2 inches off the ground on the left side one week and then 3.5 the next. So you're going to have to be able to adapt and make sure your equipment can handle whatever the car's giving you. And that's the hardest thing about this next-gen car is how different each week the car is off the ground. Some weeks they're slammed, the next weeks they're really high. And you just got to be able to adjust with that.
Talladega behind us. Dover this week. BuildSubmarines.com. Ford Mustang for Brad Keselowski. The Fastenal 17 Ford Mustang for Chris Buescher. Let's break. We got more with the Jackman for the number 6 car, Dustin Lineback. It is Backstretch Banter with RFK Racing right here, Sirius XM NASCAR Radio. Stick around. We're back here on Backstretch Banter, Sirius XM NASCAR Radio. I'm your host, Chris Childers. It is episode 10. We are behind, at least Talladega's behind us, I should say. And now we go to the Monster Mile. We are going to a interesting track this week, and certainly the way you do things, it varies by track. We are talking to the Jackman right now for the number 6. He remains with us. Dustin Lineback is our guest, who's got a football background, and then he went into the NASCAR world on the pit crew, and that's not very uncommon. I mean, you see that. You see guys like that who are athletes make that transition from football to NASCAR in the pits all the time. I want to talk about your story in a minute, but We were just getting into the nuances of the pit stops and the different tracks last segment. I'm curious what your relationship is like, Dustin, with Matt McCall. How much communication do you have to have during the race? He's sitting above you. He's in the box. He's got the headset on. How much are you talking to him? How much is going on? What's that relationship like during a race on Sunday?
Really, we don't communicate as much during the race.
Okay.
We're pretty jam up, I would say, when it comes to preparation. From what he wants to what we want, and when we mix it, we always check cars on Wednesdays to make sure everything's pittable to their setup. You got to have fast race cars, but we got to be able to pit them. And so our engineers and Matt, they work really good with us. They give us great setups to pit and to make us as successful as we can be. And during the race, he rolls in my left rear, so he's what I say, he's all in. And, I tell him, hey, I want it here. I change it all the time because I'm always trying to find a 10th, a 100th, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And he's always willing to be there at practice. He comes to a lot of practices with us. And, the communication is basically – we'll know what's going on. Say we're supposed to pit on lap 40, lap 30, he's going to relay, hey, we're going to do this and this. These are our two options, and we'll be ready. And it's really cut and dry. It's clear. He's got his plan, and that's we're just on board. I wouldn't say it's easy, but working for him is really nice because we know how he's going to call a race. I know what he wants. And sometimes I kind of want to ask him, like, hey, man, can I cut here? How much risk can I take? But then I'm like, all right, he's got a lot more to focus on than a cut time. That's just me trying to be greedy. But he's really a blessing to work for, and he builds fast cars, and he allows us to move freely and pit pretty much like free birds, man. We get to go out there and fly around. Yeah. He wants us to push and take risk and, calculated risk, obviously, but he's good to work for. It's been a joy so far.
I'm glad the communication's good, and you guys feel so informed in what's going on. And the reason I bring it up, I was at the race in Atlanta, and I was sitting in the pit box. I was sitting right behind Matt, so I could see you guys doing your thing. But the team next to you, I think, was Stenhouse, and to the right of you. And there was a pit stop where the guys had no idea what the hell was going on. And I could see them waving up. They were waving up.
I remember that.
I don't know if you saw this.
I remember that, yeah.
How does that, seriously, is that common? How often
I'll be honest with you, man,
stuff like that happen?
It's not. Maybe for another team.
How can it happen? Because I was blown away by it. I was like, holy hell.
I would just say there's no communication with them. I don't know because we meet about it.
It doesn't happen with you guys.
No, we meet about it during the week. We meet about it pre-race. And we have our car chief relaying information, because Matt's got to be up there with the engineers, making sure the plan is sticking to the plan, because things happen in a race where you got to change things. So Nick will come around and make sure, hey, we're going to pit here. This is what we're thinking. These are our options, because it's like football. You don't want to just go in one play and the defense gives you a different play and you're like, hey, well, why don't we call an audible and run the ball here? So Matt will have two different plays, two different calls, and we're prepared for them, and we talk about it in the meetings. So I don't know what the 47 does or other teams, but I can only compare it to the past teams I've been on.
I couldn't believe it, and that's why I wanted to bring it up, because I was like, they had no idea. And I'm not trying to be mean to the team, but that's why I asked about communication.
Yeah.
And how much was going on.
It's important. It's everything.
I couldn't believe what I was. Seriously couldn't believe what I was seeing. That
and we know Matt's the captain of the ship, and it's I'm a pirate. I'm an ECU guy, so I always refer to that as he's the captain of our ship, and we're the pirates, and he's leading us in the right direction. So whatever he says, we hear it clearly, and we just go and execute it. To me, it's pretty easy, cut and dry with him, because he's just going to tell you, hey, 4 tires, give me a half round of the right rear. Yeah. And we're going to know that five laps beforehand. If there needs to be a quick call, like I think in Texas, he was like, all right, Brad, if you can stay out and we can get to the top 5 or top 7, do that. But if not, we're going to come down here and we're going to take 4 tires. So for us, we're like, all right, well, we're going to take 4 tires. Mm-hmm. So we're looking for the car, and then we see him peel off. Okay, that's it. It's that simple, Yeah. He's just like, hey, if he gives Brad the option, if you can get up there and we can get some stage points, do it. If not, bring it down. We'll put 4 on it.
Sure.
And, it's part of my job to make sure everyone's communicated, hey, 4-tire, But he's standing right there beside me, so if I didn't hear it, which is hardly ever, I'll just be like, hey, you want 2 or 4? 4. All right, yeah. Easy. He's just good at it, and that's why I think our crew chief, because he's really good. It's just good. He's just really good, man.
He's a really good crew chief at that. And hell, Brad, being the owner of the team, wouldn't have a bad one. I can promise you that. He wouldn't have a bad crew chief. We're talking to Dustin Lineback right now, who is the Jackman for the number 6 car for the Ford Mustang, which is the buildsubmarines.com Ford Mustang this weekend in Dover. I was reading about you, and I love the fact, you're a football guy, and that's what I do for a living. I cover college football for SiriusXM, but you're a comic book guy too, which I love that. I'm a collector par excellence. I cards, comic books, you name it, all kinds of different crap, autographs. You could see behind me. How'd you get into comic books? What was there's got to be a story. There has to be. I fell in love because. What's that story?
Well, I grew up loving Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, right? Like,
heck yeah.
I was glued to the TV, played with them outside, inside.
Probably had a crush on April, be honest.
Loved her. Had them painted on my walls, like.
Of course.
And then I got older and older, and, I always knew about comic books, right? So I started kind of collecting them, and then I started upgrading them. And to do that, you got to sell them.
Mm-hmm.
So I started kind of getting into a little bit better stuff, buying, selling, and, started making a little money doing that. And because I'm a collector too, man. Like my dad, he collects classic cars, pedal cars, older metal, pre-war metal. I collect vintage advertising. I got tons of, like, I saw your...
Do you really?
Yeah,
awesome.
Like I saw your sausage sign. That's the first thing I noticed, right?
Oh,
the Vienna sausage, that's the first thing I saw. I was like, oh, that's sweet. But, I collect Orange Crush, 7-Up, and Dr. Pepper stuff. So it's, that's just what I like, and I collect comic books too. I'm a big DC guy. I love Batman. And, I started being a dealer a few years back, and really now it's...
Do you have a store? Do you have a shop?
We do conventions, and we do a lot of live selling on IGs and all the shows, big shows, little shows. But I kind of got into, they call it like the dealer's mind, right? So you're always after that treasure. You're always after that one big hunt. Like, can I please find the collection with 2 Tech 27s in it? That's the first appearance of Batman, or the Action One, the first Superman, or a full run of X-Men, full run of Spider-Man. Could I just land that one time? The multi-million-dollar collection you get for $100,000 or $20,000 or for free. You never know, right?
Yeah. You're
always hunting that one big trophy collection, and that's what keeps me going.
What's the best one you've got so far?
I've got a really...
What's the Grail?
I'm sending off, honestly. I've had it long enough, and the market's starting to go back up, the comic book market. And so I just sent it to Comic Connect, and it's a Showcase 4, first appearance of Barry Allen, The Flash. And it's the first Silver Age book, and it's a 6.5 white pager. And the book's, it's pretty rare. There's only one of 5 that's ever been for sale with white pages. And for you guys listening, white pages are like leather seats in a car. So, think about an old Rolls Royce that all the other ones have cloth seats. Well, this one comes stock with leather. And so that's a premium. Collectors want that. I didn't want to sell it, but I was like, I need to sell it because I don't need to have books like this. So it's gonna be a big home run for us. And that's one of those things I look for. And, I clean and press books for a living, besides racing. So I'm always trying to make them as best and present as best as I can. And we got a bump with that one. So that was it's a big deal for us. We're small timers.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So, but I've had Amazing Fantasy 15s. I've probably bought and sold over 25 of those.
Do you mess with any Marvel, or are you just kind of DC?
Amazing Fantasy 15s are first appearance of Spider-Man.
That's Marvel?
Yeah.
Okay.
So those are that's kind of the Silver Age Grail.
Okay.
I've never been able to acquire like a Batman 1 or Superman 1, things like that. Because, you're talking $500,000 to $1 million per book.
Do they still put out anything that ends up getting valuable, or is everything valuable?
Yeah, some of the new stuff, it depends on like a new character. Like Spider-Boy he's pretty recent. The Black Panther, his son, he just came out. And those books, you can buy them at the store, for $6-7. And if you grade them, CGC is a third-party grading company we all use to grade books. You get 9.8s or 9.9s, you can get $150 for them. You know, and if they
Nice.
come out in a movie, you know, and someone loves that character, people will buy and sell that book, and it'll trend up or down. You know, it's like stocks. You know, they go up, they go down. But you can catch a lot of new characters and first appearances and maybe hang on to them now still, but most of your value's in the vintage.
I figured.
Yeah.
And it makes a lot of sense because, you know, you look at the all the different characters that came. I mean, they were all kind of birthed during that era. I know a little bit about it, not a ton about it, but I think it's a really awesome industry. I really do. And like I get into cards and
Yeah.
autographs and stuff like that, and it's the best, man, when you
Love
collect
it.
something, and it's really kind of cool. And people will never know that don't collect, and my wife like just doesn't get it, what it's like to get a grail anything.
Yeah.
I mean, like you just something you just know that you want and everybody else does and you have it.
Yeah, man. It's that conversation piece. You know, I tell people all the time. There's people, you know, because I like baseball cards. I love old baseballs, Babe Ruth baseballs, stuff like that. I'm like, if you have that, and you meet someone, the relationships I've created through the comic book hobby you wouldn't fathom the amount of people that have become friends, doctors, lawyers, people who own massive companies. They love comic books. They love Pokemon cards, whether it's a toy, you know, Babe Ruth baseball, or Mickey Mantle, you know, 52 Topps Mantle.
Yeah.
These guys, they're normal people, you know, but that's just what we all love, and it brings us together, and you build that relationship, and that's the cherry on top.
I miss my comic books. I used to have a lot. The only ones I still have are ones that were given to me recently. You probably don't know what they are, but it's Brickleberry. It's a TV show that was on TV, cartoon, and the guys that are who do the show, they're my friends. So they, you know,
Oh, that's cool.
drew all these pictures in the comic books and sent them to me, and it was
Yeah,
pretty
I mean, the
special.
original art of that, you know?
Yeah.
If you can find the original art page of whatever, it doesn't even matter. Like an X-Men, first X-Men, you can find, you know, anything. You know, John Romita, Neil Adams, Steve Ditko. Those pages are millions of bucks. You know, because it's
cool.
one of one, and it's the original art, especially for a cover. You know, Neil Adams, he does Batman really good, and he passed away not too long ago. And his original art for Batman 251, which is a great Joker cover, it sold for $800,000.
Wow.
So imagine finding
wild.
that, or you know, just stumbling across it, like, wow, look at this, and then here you go. That's awesome. Life-changing stuff. So that's the
awesome.
hunt that keeps me going, and that's
awesome.
I'm like a modern day treasure hunter.
I love that. Best of luck this weekend. Best of luck with your comics, and it was cool to get to know you, man. I'm gonna come say
appreciate
hi
it.
next time I go to
Likewise.
a race.
Please
good
do.
to talk to you. Thank you.
Yep, thanks, Chris. I appreciate you having me on.
Dustin Lineback. He's the Jackman for the Ford Mustang, the number 6. Which is going to be in the buildsubmarines.com wrap this weekend. That's Dustin. We'll take a break. We'll talk to somebody from Build Submarines next, right here. It is Sirius XM NASCAR Radio, Backstretch Banter with RFK Racing. We're back here on Backstretch Banter, Sirius XM NASCAR Radio, Channel 90. What a great conversation we had over the last half hour or so with Dustin Lineback, the Jackman for the number 6 car. This week, he will be doing the Jack for the buildsubmarines.com Ford Mustang, the number 6 this week at Dover. Buildsubmarines.com has been an incredible sponsor this year for both cars, for both the 17 and the 6. They've had a great relationship with RFK. And quite frankly, this is how I got introduced to buildsubmarines.com and what they do. And I didn't even know such a thing existed where a civilian could come in and, you know, do their part for the United States to help our Navy and to build submarines. So let's talk about it right now. Kiley Wren is our guest, the co-founder and chief executive of Blue Forge Alliance with buildsubmarines.com. Kiley, it's good to talk to you. How are you?
Great to talk to you too, Chris. Doing great. Glad to be here.
Absolutely. You guys got into the NASCAR world this year with RFK, and you've done it in a pretty impressive way. Being involved with the 17 at the 6. I was in Atlanta and I met some of your people who were with the 17 car, and this week you're going to the 6. But give us an idea as to why. I think it's the coolest. I've said this on the show so many times, so I'm not just blowing smoke, but I think it's the coolest sponsor in NASCAR this year across the board. but why did NASCAR seem like the appropriate audience to reach who you wanted to reach?
Yeah, no, it's a great question, Chris. We were examining kind of where we needed to kind of get the word out for what this whole Build Subs platform is, and we can go into that. And we were kind of thinking about the NASCAR as a population, the NASCAR fan base, and when we were first approached by the RFK team, and we got to looking into really what makes up the fan base, it turns out it's the perfect fan base, right? Because you've got a high level of patriotism, you've got
Mhm.
they're 70% more likely to be engineers. They're 40 some percent more likely to be technically oriented, right? Like they like to think with their hands, that sort of thing. And it was largely an untapped population for us for potential workers to come get involved. And so it really was the perfect avenue.
It makes so much sense. It really does. And is somebody who's not very useful with their hands. I keep thinking to myself, if I was, I mean, I'd be right on it. I mean, I can't think of anything cooler to get involved with than building submarines and helping your country. It's awesome. It is. I mean, and I've been all over the website. I've looked at the gear. I got a hat, the whole thing. I
Nice.
absolutely love the relationship. So talk about the platform. I mean, you're literally the name kind of speaks for itself, but you're looking for people to build submarines, right?
Yeah, that's it. And if you think about sort of the job profile of a NASCAR race team, right? You've got your engineers doing design work. You got them in the war room, on race day. You've got your logistics people. You've got your pit crews, that sort of thing, right? That whole sort of job profile really resembles what it looks like to build a submarine. You got all those kinds of careers available, and we find ourselves right now in the United States of America in need of fielding a lot more of these submarines, these next generation nuclear submarines.
Hmm.
So we're on a massive uptick right now in production, and one of the number one things that's holding us back is the workers, right? And so we've got to go find where those workers are. We got to let them know that there are jobs available, and these are family sustaining, generational career type jobs, multi decades, right? There really are careers, not jobs, and they're available. And we need the people, and we need to let them know that they have jobs available to them with a purpose.
With a real purpose. I mean, I can't think of a greater purpose. Um, what kind of I would imagine you're looking for a certain kind of character too, and you just mentioned it a minute ago with the patriotism, but um, the workers to do something noble like this, you need, obviously as many bodies as you can. Give us an idea. How many people go into building one sub? I mean, I gotta think it's an undertaking. It's a big undertaking.
Yeah, it really is, Chris. I mean, we're very fortunate as Americans to have, we have the two prime shipbuilders, General Dynamics Electric Boat in the New England region, and Huntington Ingalls Newport News in Virginia, the best in the world at what they do. We're very thankful for that, obviously. And then we've got over 15,000 suppliers that provide the parts, components, subcomponents spread all across the country. And our models show that in order for us to reach our increased production demands, we need over 100,000 workers over the next
Wow.
decade.
Mm.
And so, like, where you got to get them, right? And so that's how we got involved in the NASCAR platform, and we're reaching into that nearly 100 million strong fan base of the kinds of people that we want to know have these opportunities available to them.
It works. It does. I think the message is getting out there. I think the cars look really cool. The number 6 is going to look awesome this week. And like I said to you earlier, I thought it was the coolest sponsor in the sport this year, and it's not even close. I mean, just to know that that you can build submarines. I don't know why. I just thought like the government had military guys do it. I don't know what I was thinking, but the civilian can do that and do it at a high level and have a career and get a decent wage and all those things that we all dream about. So these jobs are available. Buildsubmarines.com, and there's nothing more noble. I can't think of a career that's more noble. If I could do it, I would. I promise you that. Because it's pretty awesome. Give me an idea of your background. I was reading up on you, and you kind of have. You got quite the experience, don't you?
Well, I don't know, Chris.
The NASA engineering, right, and all kinds of
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah, that I had a career at NASA. I was fortunate enough, my dad started working at NASA actually before it was NASA, when NACA became NASA.
Really?
So
Wow.
I was kinda second I was kinda born in it, and,
Sure.
kinda did that, but, the submarine, workforce is a lot like that.
Mm.
There are 3 and 4 generation deep workers at our submarine, manufacturing facilities, our shipbuilding facilities. There's a lot of pride and tradition, and at the suppliers as well, right? There's a lot of multi-generational, workers in that. So yeah, my background just, led me to, Texas A&M, where I had been a former student, and I came back as part of the A&M engineering leadership team, which is where I met my co-founder and partner, Rob Gorham. He was running the Additive Manufacturing Institute, the National Additive Manufacturing Institute. We started partnering, got him to A&M, started getting into more defense industrial based work over the last like decade or more, and then we eventually met Navy and launched Blue Forge, and here we are.
That's cool. It's a pretty cool story. I'd love to pick your brain about A&M too. And if you're an Aggie football fan, I would imagine you have to be if you're
Yeah,
from Texas, right?
I mean, Chris, yeah, but do we have to talk about it?
It's getting better. You got Mike
Well,
Elko
let's hope,
now
yeah.
and
No, yeah,
got
it's
Jimbo
in the
out of
blood.
there. I actually
It
think
never
Elko's a
goes
really good
away,
coach.
right?
What's that?
But we're hopeful. We're hopeful.
You should be hopeful. So that's what I do for a living. I do college football talk for Sirius
Yeah, I saw
XM.
that. I saw that.
Yeah, with Rick Neuheisel. We do a show every day. Um, and I've said it before. I think A&M is the number one job in America. They just got to get their stuff together. I mean, if I just think you have every resource, every bell, every whistle, everything you need. You just need the right culture, the right guy, the right something. And God knows they got every resource known to man when it comes to NILs and collectives and all that. So I think A&M is going to be just fine. I really do, as we move into this new world of this new SEC that includes Texas, which is
Yeah.
kind of weird
It
with
is kind
the
of weird, but we're looking forward to that part of it, right? I mean,
the
that,
rivalry's back.
yeah, it's good for college football. It's good
It's so
for
good.
America. I mean, you got to play that game. When each school is in the other school's fight song, you got to be
Yes.
playing that football game.
Absolutely. 100%. 1000% really. Let's take a break. We got more with Kiley Wren from Blue Forge Alliance when we come back talking build submarines.com. They will be on the car, the number 6 this week, the Ford Mustang for RFK. Can't wait to see it because those buildsubmarine.com cars look really cool. So we'll talk more about it when we come back right here on Sirius XM NASCAR Radio. We are back here. It is Backstretch Banter on Sirius XM NASCAR Radio. I'm your host, Chris Childers. Big race weekend coming up. We are going to the Monster Mile, going to Dover. The number 17 car will have Fastenal on it, and the number 6 will have buildsubmarines.com. And we're talking right now to Kiley Wren from Blue Forge Alliance. He is the co-founder and chief executive, and they are actively searching for people that want to help their country, that want to build submarines, that want to fill this demand. We have a demand. We need submarines. We need them out there to help our country. And you absolutely can have a career in that field. So buildsubmarines.com is the easiest way to get caught up on everything you need to know just to get involved with this. Kiley Wren, our guest. Kiley, we mentioned why NASCAR a minute ago. I'm curious why RFK, why Rous Fenway Keselowski is the way to deliver your message.
Yeah, Chris, we had launched our buildsubmarines.com platform, and we rolled out um, uh, our initial campaign over the March Madness timeframe last year before last. And the RFK guys were watching Final Four basketball. They kept seeing our ad come up, and so they reached out and said, "Hey, look, we have a championship driver he's got a military foundation, has an advanced manufacturing company himself, that sort of thing. Looks like there might be a partnership here." And it was sort of like just dumb luck because we had talked a little bit about the NASCAR community, but we hadn't really dug into it yet. I'm like, oh,
Okay.
well, here we go.
Yeah.
Maybe this is it, right?
Sure.
And so we reached out. We had a couple calls with Justin Han and Jacob and the guys, and it turned out that week they were going to be right here in Austin because we happen to be headquartered in Texas, actually not far from Chris's hometown.
Okay.
And so they're like, "Hey, you could come over to the race this weekend if you can, and just kind of meet with us." And so we did, and met Brad there. Got to talking. He knows a lot of folks that we know, this kind of thing, and it's like,
Hmm.
"Hey, we should probably come up to Charlotte and pay a visit, see if we can find something on the schedule." And he whips his phone out. Well, I like to go fast. I say, "Yeah, of course you do. So let's just find the time right now." And so that was it. So we went up that next week, and within 6 weeks, we were announcing the car at the Charlotte race, which will be a year anniversary coming up at the end of the
Yeah.
month. And we were off and running, right? And so it's been a tremendous opportunity to get into this fan base and this community, and it's just really had a huge impact on our efforts.
I know they're really thrilled to have you, and I can't think of a better partnership, especially with Brad Keselowski and what he stands for and what he cares about. It really does make a lot of sense. Before we're done here, I want to thank everybody for helping out with the show. Alec Walt and Thomas Burfield, Kevin Woods is outstanding. Brandon Lee, just wonderful people. One last time, we got like 2 minutes left, but just tell everybody about what you're doing and why it's so important for people to get involved.
Yeah, Chris, I appreciate that. We do a lot of focus groups across the country and that sort of thing. And you kind of touched on it a minute ago. Every person wants to do something that is of a higher calling and has a purpose, right? That's the number one thing that people say, regardless of age group. Wages are important, those sorts of things, but number one thing is purpose. And we just want folks to know that we've got jobs in the thousands available across the gamut, from engineering to technician to everything in between. And they're available at our website, buildsubmarines.com. That's the platform to go to. We offer training for free. There's all kinds of opportunity there for folks to dig into, and they can have a job with purpose and meaning wherever they are in the country.
Super purpose, incredible meaning. Um, what's better? I mean, especially like if you couldn't be in the military or you've aged out and you want a way to serve your country, I cannot imagine a better way than to. I mean, and submarines are cool. Let's
Mhm.
be honest, like they're cool. They're
They
super
absolutely
cool.
are.
Absolutely. So building a sub, I mean, come on. I can't think of anything cooler. Thank you. Thank you so much for being a part of the organization and being on the show today. And enjoy Dover this weekend. I don't know if you're going to have a chance to get out there, but it should be a heck of a race with buildsubmarines.com on the number 6 car.
Yeah, thanks so much, Chris. Thanks to you and the RFK team. Enjoyed being here. Thanks for your time.
Absolutely. That is Kiley Wren. He is the co-founder and the chief executive of Blue Forge Alliance. And one more time, I would encourage everybody, and I've said this throughout the year, that's the coolest website that we have in NASCAR. It's the coolest sponsor. It's awesome that people like us could go out there and help our country this way. Build submarines.com. You're not going to forget the website. It's really easy to go and access it. And there, I mean, he just said thousands of jobs, good jobs are available right now. So go to buildsubmarines.com. That'll wrap it up. Thank you to everybody at RFK. Enjoy Dover, everyone. I'm Chris Childers, and we'll see you next week on Backstretch Banter. We appreciate you listening. Thank you.